everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth and Story, and I am in the process of cleaning out, refreshing my cubicles because I've been kind of trying a new thing where I'm just kind of taking certain decks out for the season and then kind of bringing out my whole collection, going through them, bringing out some fresh ones just to see if I will maybe use different ones. I don't know. I'm just trying it for right now. But in the process of that, I thought I'm going to go ahead and get out what I had intended to do at the end of this year, which is to look at the decks that I purchased, both Tarot and Oracle, and kind of go through them as to, how I feel about them still, whether I'm glad I purchased them. Just kind of do a rundown of the decks that I personally purchased. So I'm not putting decks that I either traded or that were given to me or anything like that. These are decks that I put my personal money into, and am I happy that I am I happy that I did that and or not? What am I still doing with those decks? So I kind of went back through like Amazon and different things like that. I'm not saying that there isn't a deck missing here. There's possible. There are a couple that I've already given away, and I will try to make note of those. I tried to make a list of them and make note of it. So here we have them all piled up. I'm not going to go really in order of my purchasing, because that would be too much trouble. I'm just going to kind of grab them as I go and just kind of talk about them. So the Ophidia Rosa, I'm going to do the Oracle separately, but the Ophidia Rosa and the Pythia, I think it's the Pythia Oracle, I bought together, and these were a all Patrick's Fall, and I was actually really disappointed with these. Not disappointed because they're beautifully constructed. There's nothing wrong with them, but they just didn't really work for me. They just didn't speak to me at all. They felt, to be honest, a little bit flat. For most of since I purchased them, and I should have written down dates, but I don't have any dates. This would have been summertime. However, I will say that the Ophidia Rosa Tarot has actually become a working deck for me. I do a reading that's called The Web, and I just need a really pip style deck. I'm just looking to have a quick, it's a very small part of the main reading. And I just kind of want a past, present, and future to tie it in. And it just works with the rest of it, doesn't clash against the rest of the theme of the deck. It's just plants. And I literally just use it as a pip deck. It's just, I don't really pay attention to the flowers on it, nothing. It's just purely a full-on pip deck for me. This is the quick message that comes up, and it's actually worked really well that way for me. So this would have been one, and I have actually put this up for trade, and if I found something else that fit that particular reading, because it's a reading that I do for clients, which is, so it's important for me to have one that works with it. I would probably trade this and pass this one on. But right now it is working in that position. So it was actually initially a disappointment. Really didn't use it at all. Now I am using it pretty consistently in that style. So for right now, it goes into the category of, this is not right here. I'm pulling in some new decks up together, but this cubicle is for decks that I use in my practice, so they need to stay out all the time because I actually use them in specific readings. So that one has kind of redeemed itself. These two are newer, so let me save those. We'll come back to those, and those are newer ones. This is the Santa Muerte Tarot that I purchased, and this was kind of I wasn't entirely sure what I would think about this. I love this deck. I'm not going to go into in-depth. I've done reviews, I believe, of all of the ones that we're going to talk about. I've done reviews of them, so you can go see those. This is just sort of an update. I really love this deck. I have used it personally. I have not used this at all for clients. This is just a deck that I am using for myself and will be continuing to use for myself for more like ancestral type work over the winter. And so this is definitely a winner for me. This is a Santa Muerte Tarot by Fabio Listrani. And this is the basic edition. There was also a special edition, and this was kind of a surprise one. I thought, well, I'll check it out. It'd be interesting to see if he's done something different. I love what was done in the minors a lot. I really love the progression that's shown in the minors. You can watch my walkthrough. My feelings on this have not changed. I don't know that it would ever be a deck that I would use for clients. I don't think so. But in terms of for myself, yes, and it's definitely staying out into the winter deck. So really happy with that one. The Good Tarot is a deck that I purchased really just to do a review of. It was fairly cheap. I want to say I ended up paying maybe $15 for it. A lot of people there weren't a lot of images out when it came out. This is by Colette Baron Reed. There weren't a lot of images out, and I found it sitting on the shelf of a local bookstore, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to grab that because people were really curious. So this really was purchased for review purposes. I really didn't expect it to be a deck that I would use a lot, and it hasn't. Again, I have a walkthrough. I have mixed feelings about the deck itself, in terms of, you know, how tarot-y it is and how oracle it might be, those kind of things. Again, you can watch my full walkthrough. I will say, since doing this walkthrough, I have only used this for actual readings maybe twice. So but at the same time, the 2 times that I did it, one was for somebody who was a friend of mine who isn't really into tarot, doesn't really get into tarot. I don't know why this one is so different looking on the edge. And really just needed something that was beautiful and a simple message, and I don't know, it just worked for what it is that she needed at the moment, and it read beautifully. She really enjoyed it. It fit the situation, it fit the person very well. And there was another time in which it simply fit the person really well, and it was beautiful to read for. So I don't think it will ever become a, you know, deck that I pull out all the time by any means. I have, like I said, only used it twice. I didn't really think I would even keep it, to be honest. My thought was I'd probably end up moving this one on, but because it's worked for a couple instances and worked really well in that situation for that person, it's a deck that I will keep in my collection for that reason. You know, again, $15. You can trade it or sell it. You'd have to sell it for less than that. So for that, it's just, it's good to have in the collection for those particular moments. And again, I'm not opposed to that. I am not somebody who's trying to par my collection down. I don't necessarily feel any different about having a bunch of decks as I do about having a bunch of books. It's all the same to me. So it's not like I'm trying to pare things down. However, if it's something, I do tend to at least want to use a deck. There has to be some purpose for, or some instance in which I think it might work for the most part, especially for something that I'm going to purchase. And so I would still keep this because of that, because there was a space, there was persons who it worked really beautifully for. And so yeah. So again, I only paid $15 for it. I'm not disappointed in it. I'm not disappointed that I purchased it. But it's definitely not a deck that I use a lot. So I think that kind of sums it up. Don't want to continue on with that one. The English Magic Tarot, this was so cheap. I even started a Facebook group for this, but I never did anything with it because my brain or work, things just got busy, and then I just, went off. I like this tarot deck. This is the English Magic Tarot. I literally think I paid $5 for it, which is a steal because it's really, the guidebook is well written. This is one I want to get back to. I don't think it's going to be this winter, but I feel like it will have its time. It has I have done some readings with it, not for clients, but it has a very cartomancy feel to it. There is I don't know, there's something about the imagery or the way that they depict the cards that feels quite blunt and quite, here, and here. I don't know. It has that old style cartomancy feel. I need to stop that. I turn that off? There's a way to turn off the autofocus because it keeps going in and out. Okay, oops. So yeah, again, it was so cheap. It was well worth taking. And there's some of the cards that I absolutely love the depictions in. And so definitely no regrets here. The value was crazy. The book is really well written. It has, again, a different voice than you're seeing in other decks. It has, again, very cartomancy. It has all kinds of puzzles to work out within it. It's just a really well done and worth the full price, which I didn't even pay for. So it's not a deck that I use a lot. I used it and it's interesting and I want to come back to it. I don't use it for clients. It's more of a study interest deck than it is for me a usage deck. But again, for $5, no regrets here. No regrets there. This is one I want to get to. I need to leave this one out for this winter. This is the complete Arthurian Tarot. I'm going to sneeze. I can feel it. I've been digging things out and pulling things out from under the bed. There's dust everywhere. This is by Caitlin and John Matthews. And this is one I just need. I want to sit down and read the guidebook. I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Very, very thorough guidebook. John Matthews makes amazing guidebooks. This is simply one that I purchased because of Tarot Alchemist reminding me to purchase it. It's all based on the Arthurian legends and the lands surrounding King Arthur and of that nature. And I love that. I grew up immersed in Arthurian legend, and so it's like a no-brainer that I would pick this up, and I think I got it for quite a good deal as well. And it's like a no-brainer for me. I just have not worked with it at all because I really want to sit down and read the guidebook because I know John Matthews guidebooks are amazing. So I'm kind of putting that in this is my winter decks. Not necessarily because I have to sort of suss how I'm going to manage this. It's not necessarily that I think that that's a winter theme. It's just something that I want to get to this winter and actually work with. So no regrets on that one at either. I actually didn't have a whole lot of tarot regrets. I think I had a lot of oracle regrets maybe. The Sola Busca, this is the Lo Scarabeo version. Zero regrets. Zero regrets here. I can't even speak. I had the little card out here. I noticed that I had left it out. This is beautiful. I think Lo Scarabeo did an amazing job with this. This is a reproduction of from the mid 1400s, I would say, to late 1400s, that has a very different major. So this would have been around the time as the Sforza and the Madrone, but instead of the majors that we all recognize, they are people from history, men from history and mythology. And so it's a very different deck, but a lot of the miners were inspirations for Pamela Coleman Smith. And so it's really a beautiful and important deck. You can see that Three of Swords that we either love or don't love. And you can see where that came from. This came all the way from the beginning, right? So it's beautiful. I don't read with this, at least at the right now. I don't really have any intention of reading with it. Patrick, my friend Patrick, and my friend Icy and I are going to kind of do some studying surrounding it. But I look at it more as a study deck and part of my historical collection, so to speak. I mean, it's not a historical deck, it's a reproduction, but I didn't really purchase it with the intent to use. It's more of a history, kind of part of history and to study it. And so I am absolutely pleased with this. The box is stunning. I will be doing a walkthrough of this. I think Lo Scarabeo did an amazing job with this particular deck. So if you're looking for a Sola Busca, but you don't want to spend as much, there's a beautiful scarlet imprint. There's a couple different versions that you can get that are absolutely gorgeous. But if you don't want to spend that much money on something you may not going to use as a tarot deck, I actually highly recommend the Lo Scarabeo version. They did a great, great job. So there's that. That goes up here with my historical deck collection. This is another one I picked up. It's called the Illuminated Tarot. I actually really love this. I don't use it a lot. I will say, but I do use it for myself. So this is, I trimmed this, but this is a combination. It is a playing card, so it has basically the minors, and then it has combined, again, I have a walkthrough of this. It has combined the majors into the minors. So it is a 52 card deck, I believe. I believe it's just 52 cards. I don't think they added the extra court. They may have the extra court. Let me look at the clubs. They have the Jack, Queen, and King. Yeah, no, it's a 52 card. So it's a playing card deck that they've incorporated the other cards into it. And I think it's really clever. I really do like the artwork. The only thing I was disappointed was I actually thought they would be playing card size when I pre-ordered these. And they aren't. They're bigger than that. But once I trimmed them down, they're a good size. I really think it's clever. I love it. I do use it for myself sometimes. And I have no regrets over this one. Again, it wasn't an expensive deck whatsoever. And I do really like what she did, the creator did here. And I'm really happy. In fact, it's one I leave out. Even though I don't use it very often, I like to be able to grab it every once in a while. So that one kind of stays out in my miscellaneous tarot thing. So that's Illuminated Tarot. The next one that I'm looking at here is the Ostara Tarot. I went back and forth about this one, to be honest. I had the app for a long time, and I really wanted it when I had the app. And then when it came into being, there were all kinds of issues surrounding the release of the deck, which happened with a lot of decks this year. And I kind of went back and forth, and I really do like this. I do use it. There is a reading I do in my shop that is an expanded Get There reading. And so I use a Lenormand airstrip spread, which is a Kipper reading spread, which I use my Lenormand deck for, and then I pull, there's 6 tarot cards that I pull. And I use this a lot for that. I use this with my tarot, with my Lenormand deck, and it's really visually looks well, and I've had some wonderful readings from it. I do have some problems with some of the cards. There are just a couple cards that are problematic to me. Some of it is inconsistencies, I think, between having 4 different creators. I'm not a big proponent. I think they're really cool when you do collaboration decks, but in terms of usability, I don't tend to generally like them. And so I think there's a slight problem with that, but I still really love this deck, and I've used it in quite a lot of readings for clients, and it's beautiful. So I think the biggest, for me, look at it. It's like being in a fairy tale. I really do love it. The biggest problem card, and I brought this up, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, we heard you. But there's some absolutely stunning cards, and again, it reads really well. I've enjoyed working with it more than I thought I would, to be honest. Of course, now I can't find it. It's the 4 of Cups, or 3 of Cups, I'm sorry, which is very much a celebratory, and it even talks like it's it's a very Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And the write-up around the 3 of Cups is, Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's so not. The energy of the card is so not 3 of Cups. I love the animals. Here it is. I mean, they look like they're drowning in the swamp. There's nothing joyous to me. At least if her face would have been happy. There are 3 cups. There are 3 people, but she looks like she's not happy. This just doesn't have any vibe or energy of 3 of Cups for me at all. So there are a couple like that, but for the most part, I do like the deck. It's out. I use it in my readings with clients, and so I'm actually kind of surprised. It's not like a home run hit for me, but it's a good deck, and I do use it. And when I use something for clients, that generally means it's something I'm comfortable. I found myself comfortable enough to use with clients, so that's usually like a good thumbs up there. Um, let's do these real quick, and then we'll get to the newer ones. So this little chunk here was for a very specific purpose. I believe some of these I might have purchased in December and a couple of them in the beginning of January. This was like right on the cusp of last year, or this year and last year. But this was very mindfully done. This was all of these decks, minus this one. These 4 decks are decks that use a Picards Miners system. So this is the Tarot Balbi, which is an older deck that I ended up getting for $15 because my friend Bart found an amazing auction for it. So it's an older deck and it's used, but they're generally more expensive than that. So I'm thrilled. And this uses Picards Miners. I have a video out about that in my list of videos, but Picard used very specific shapes. The way that he did each of the numbers has a very specific shape that is seen through all of the minors. So all of the 5s have a specific shape, all of the 3s have a specific shape, and it's really fascinating. And he really put some focus on the minors during the early late 1800s, early 1900s, when a lot of people were focused on the majors. He was like, look, we need to put a little bit more work into bringing a cohesiveness to the minors. And I really like what he was attempting to do, and his structure of his minors just really fascinates me. And so all of these decks, so there's only 5 decks that use his minors in one way or another. Now, the Crystal Tarot, which I didn't purchase this year, I had that before. It uses his shapes, but it kind of mixes them up a little bit. It's not perfect. So the Tarot Balbi, the Universal Worth uses Oswald Worth's majors and Picards Miners. This is probably the best modern example of them. And they're really quite beautiful. I've trimmed this down, but you can see the shape, right? So this is a 9, and this 4 plus the 5 on the top is a shape. This wheel here, shape. These are shapes that you see over and with the ground and the sky, all very specific imagery, and you'll see it across all. Again, I have a video on this, so I'm not gonna go too far into it. But I purchased these because I'm fascinated by that his work with the minors, and there were only 5 decks, including the crystal, which is a little iffy, right? The Contemplative Tarot, again, kind of iffy, but because it was the only other one that even kind of used his minors, I wanted it for the collection. And then the beautiful Arthurian Tarot Esoterico, which I would say started it, but it was actually, I think, the Crystal Tarot, but I didn't realize that's what it was. But these, I don't particularly love the majors, but the Arthurian Tarot Esoterico has some of my favorite minors, period. It's just gorgeous. You can really see things that are above and below with the minors. The growing roots here, the astrological. Again, you have a lot of the cards being cut in half, and things that are going above and things are going below. That's just really smart. And this one is a great example. And my friend Itzy had this deck, and every time I would see some of these minors, I would be like, oh, I really love those minors. And so, yeah. Again, so these four purchases were very much for the purpose of that little collection of very few decks that use that system. And so that is why I have purchased those, and I'm very happy with that purchase. Those need to go up there. And then Tarot of the Masters I purchased this year, and this is a reproduction of the Vachetta. which it was in 1893. But this is a recoloring. This is not, and it's beautiful. I really purchased it for two reasons. Number one, I love the pastel, and they trimmed this down to the actual, it had another border around it, but this is more how the cards would have looked. And the coloring is just beautiful pastels. And it's such an interesting deck. It's very much has scenic miners. You know, when you hear a lot, the Rider-Waite-Smith were the first scenic miners, which just really isn't so. And it's just beautiful. And so I purchased it because it's beautiful, and because it is a, you know, has scenes in the miner in a way that you don't always realize they did in some of the older decks. So it's just beautiful, and it reads really beautiful. Although this again is just kind of part of my historical reproduction collection, so it's much more of straight up a collection than one that this isn't one that I use. I do use some of my, obviously, my historical decks for actual readings and for client readings. This isn't one that I do, but I do love having it. So that was a 2 thumbs up. So far with tarot, I think I've done pretty good, and not having regrets. My 2 newest ones are the Spirit Within Tarot, which is by our lovely Stephen Bright. And I purchased this because I think Stephen Bright's a really sweetheart, and so I definitely wanted to support him in terms of him putting out his deck. And I really love this use of silhouettes. And it is a modern deck, and I will say that I don't generally purchase modern style decks. They don't really appeal to me. And there are some cards, you know, with skateboards in it and DJs and things that are quite outside of my normal comfort zone. Not comfort zone, just aesthetics that I would choose to use. But I do really like it. Some of my favorite cards of that card have showed up in here. I was just like, that's one of my favorite depictions of that card. So I'm really happy with it. I really love, it's very Rider-Waite-Smith, which it says on it. The color, use of color, and the way that color stands out in larger spreads is really beautiful. The size is really nice. I have used it for a couple client readings. I generally don't use such straight up Rider-Waite-Smith with client readings, but if I wanted to, this is one I would pull out. It's great for, I think, tutorial videos as well, because it's quite clear what you're looking at. And it's a good size and the good color changes and things. So I'm really happy that I purchased this, and I have been using it. So there you have it. That one's definitely not a regret. And then the last one, it's not the last one I purchased. These are the last 2 that I purchased of the year, and I don't have any intentions of purchasing any for the rest of the year. So that's why I thought, well, I can go ahead and do this, right? This is a Spirit Song Tarot by Paulina Cassidy. And I went back and forth about this one just because I used to have the Paulina Tarot. I made the mistake of, for me, a mistake of trimming it. And her artwork is so intricate and busy that minus the borders, it got a little bit claustrophobic for me. But I couldn't resist this. My friend Bella had shown me some pictures. It's all animals. There's no human stuff in here. It's just animals. And so you have sort of a combo of a animal oracle and a tarot deck, but it's done. And usually that doesn't work. But there's something about this deck that it actually works. The animals work with the tarot card, but the animals and the keywords kind of work all on their own if you just wanted to kind of work with some animal energy and have the sub-layer of tarot. It just seems to work in ways that usually this kind of deck, I'll say, you know, it's great, but they should have just done an oracle deck. This one, and I haven't used it a ton yet. I haven't had it that long, so I'll have to come back for an update on this. But from what I have used of it, I think it's one of the few in which I do think there is an oracle and a tarot component that actually functions well. So yeah, it's really beautiful. I just love animal decks, so I couldn't resist it. It's just really sweet. It's of course very pastel oriented. It's probably more of a spring. It looks very spring feel, but I really do love it. And I do like, for the most part, I like the keywords, and I don't generally like keywords on tarot. But I think that she did a really great job. The backs are beautiful. I'm very happy with it. I love it more than I thought I would. I have not used it for clients. I'm not sure if it was a healing, depending on the topic. If it was something that was healing, that just kind of the sweet energy. I tend to go a little more neutral sometimes with clients' readings, just so, I don't know. I don't know that this will, we'll see. So far I have not used it for clients, but I really love my daughter. This would be wonderful reading for my daughter. So there are certain questions and situations in which I think this would be wonderful. Certainly, I sometimes do birth chart readings for children, for the parents. Like they get the birth chart, and then we do like a 12 card reading with. It's not it's kind of looking at the energy of that house. But so I don't read for children. But this would be amazing for that as well, because I don't think there's anything in here that would be difficult because it's just animal energy. So this would be great for that also. I'm not saying that it's a children's deck by any means, but it would be good for that. So I'm really happy with this. Again, it surprised me. I like it more than I thought I would. So I'm really happy with that. So this rounds up the tarot decks that I purchased this month, or this year, 2017. So I'm going to do another one on Oracle decks that I purchased this year. And I had just said that I would do that, kind of do a recapping of decks that I've put my money. Again, I know you're all going to say, you've had more decks than that. But yeah, I haven't put in any ones that I either traded or were given to me, because that wasn't something that I purchased, to kind of be able to say whether or not I feel like it was worth the purchase or not. So that's why I'm doing it in this fashion. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I'm gonna wrap this one up, and then that way I can do the Oracle decks and get the pile of decks off of my spaces.